Welcome to the podcast. It's the best podcast in the world. This is going to end up on the show. I know it, motherfucker.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to episode 107 of Epitome of Stupidity, your favorite allegedly metal podcast. Intro song today is Cannibal Culture by a band named Low with an exclamation point. That's L-O exclamation point. They are a band that I've come into here recently and have just fucking fallen in love with. They are so ridiculously heavy. And they're from Australia, so I'm sure as the idiot American here, I will hit that note too many times in our conversation with them later, but more on that, again, later. If you're new here, I'm Clint. I'll be your host. Welcome in. If you're a returning listener, you know that at this point, you can set your brain to the Clint setting, and we'll be hitting cruising altitude shortly. Should you need help finding that setting, might I recommend some delicious mead from Brimming Horn to assist. All you do is go to brimminghornmeadery.com, pick out some flavorful and tasty mead. Then at checkout, use code EPITOMEAD, that's EPITOMEAD, and boom, 10% off your order. And once it gets there, you'll be well on your way to finding your own personal Clint setting. What could go wrong? Should you continue to have problems finding your own personal Clint setting and happen to be in Columbus on August 24th, come on down to the Blockout Bash, which will be happening across 6 venues within a block of each other, and find me, and I'll be glad to help you be able to enjoy a ton of good tunage and find your own personal Clint setting, a la proximity to me and alcohol. Yay! What am I listening to lately? So much goodness. There are still a few albums on repeat for some upcoming shows related to the podcast. That's the show, Clint. You know that that's the thing. This is the thing that we're talking about. It's a podcast. It's a show. Anyway, I've been listening to a lot of Delving. Hopefully a lot on them here soon. Their new album, All Past the Verge, comes out here very soon. If you know me, you know that I love me some fucking instrumental music. And this is Nick DeSalvo, the guy from Elders, side band. It's all instrumental. It's fucking great. Outside of that, I had a good Primus run after seeing them here this past Tuesday, the 6th of August, almost said October, here in Columbus. If they're coming near you and you don't go see them, I can confidently say that you're doing it wrong. I mean, honestly, they are so fucking great, and their set lists have been so varied and just fucking awesome. Go see Primus. Anyway. I wasn't able to make it to the War on Women the following day here in Columbus, but that didn't stop me from enjoying a fucking solid run of their wonderful Hell album, which for my money is still the angriest album that came out in 2020. Other than that, let's dive into some Low. So, Cannibal Culture was their song today. They're an Australian quartet. Their album, I'm not sure I'm saying this right. That's the theme here, right? I think it's Vestigial. It came out in 2017 to universal acclaim and for good fucking reason. The song Locust Christ off of that is what got me into them. I found it via the Spotify radio thing in relation to Generation of Vipers a while back. To be completely honest, I was on a 3-day run of nothing but Generation of Vipers and was kind of pissed that Spotify kicked me off to something else. And then I got, a minute into that song and thought, okay, you win this round, Spotify, because we're going to pen in these guys and come back to this when I'm done with Generation of Vipers. After that 2017 album, they returned in 2023 with an album called The Gleaners, which is what our song today, Cannibal Culture, is off of. And they're not missing a lot of beats here. This thing picked up right where they left off, and it just whooped all of the ass. And that's maybe. I'm not doing an Australian accent. I'm not fucking doing it. I know I can't do it. I don't want to be that fucking generic. I'm not doing it. But let's maybe take a trip to the other side of the planet, where currently it's almost 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern, and it's on Sunday. So we're going to talk to Sam of Low, and it will be 8 a.m. Australian time, Monday fucking morning when we talk to him. I still can't get my head around it. I don't care. It's weird. Anywho, cue stupid phone sound gag. Ring. And he answered. On the line with me today, still, for those playing the home game, is Sam of the band Low from the other side of the fucking planet. Sam, how the hell are you today?
I'm excellent this morning, Clint. I've just cracked a fresh tin of coffee. I'm up here in far north Queensland. It is 8 a.m. my time, but we are both here to chat about sludge metal, death metal, all kinds of metal, despite our differences.
All the fucking metal. I love it. Almost like I've never asked this before. Sam, what are you listening to lately?
I'm listening to Chatpile and an Australian artist called Sumper the Great, and also a American artist called Rhapsody. So a little bit of trip-hop, hip-hop, Afrikaans sort of stuff, as well as some very misanthropic post-metal.
Yeah, the chat pile stuff, I got I can't remember, it was just the announcement of their new album coming up or something. I may even be saying things I'm not supposed to say. They're a fucking super interesting band. That guy's, I think it's safe to say that he's got some fucking opinions and is angry about some things.
Yes. I like the fact that the vitriol that he pushes forward, it sounds genuine. It's as if you're reading a ripped out page from his diary entry, and it's not put on. It's quite sincere.
Yeah.
And it's hatred, everything. And juxtaposed with the lovely aesthetic of their releases, of how that they market themselves and their artwork, it's very jarring. It's like reading somebody's death threat at the back of a beautiful postcard.
Sure. That's a very fucking on-the-nose way to fucking say it. I love it. So we'll get going in earnest here about Low with just a quick crash course in the band. Give us the history up till August, whatever day it is, since we're technically on different days of this year of our fucking deity, 2024.
Sure thing. Well, it's a band of 4 dudes that live in Australia. Most of the time we've lived in Sydney. That's our origins. But we have spent time in other states. We have existed for about 15 years at the end of this year. Our main genre is sludge. We're signed to the very lovely Pelagic Records in Berlin. So that's the home of the ocean, Cold Luna, etc. And we try and raise the bar in our genre by having more anthems, more cinematic moments, more borrowing from other metal genres to infuse in sludge. So although we always have the groove, we do have a lot of bells and whistles that we put in there to make it interesting for us and definitely make it more interesting live. So live energy is very important to us each release. So we take a lot of pride in our live shows, and when we record on our records to sound like, if it can be played live, it's sounding live, then we're on the right track.
I've seen and read a lot of things about you guys' live performances, and I can't wait to talk a little bit further about them. But until then, I'm going to pick up with, and my initial message to you guys said as much. I've only recently discovered you guys, and I saw, funny enough, that somebody else through the social medias has recently discovered you guys, and I saw where you reshared something. How does that read to you guys? What's that? Is that more of like a, well, you know, it's about fucking time, or is it, how does that read to you guys?
It says that we're probably way better musicians than we are PR agents. And it doesn't help to have a word of, say, low, L-O exclamation mark for a Google search. So that can be a bit of a pit trap, but it's more just the fact that we do quality over quantity. We've released 4 albums to date, and we've got the 5th on the way, and it's been a slow burn for people to discover us, but we're very thankful that people are able to consume our music because they've found it organically. Just the same as I found my favourite bands when I was a teenager. I didn't have a lot of social media to find it. I found it through word of mouth, through attending festivals, and for finding under the headings of bands that would fit in that sort of family of sound. I would love to play to more crowds, especially in the US. That's one of the places we haven't been yet. But Japan, Europe, all of Australia, these are places that we They're well known to us, and we want to keep coming back. So as long as people keep discovering and sharing it, I can't see why we wouldn't want to stop. The love of the music's still there for us, and we just continue. Whether or not there's an extra 5,000 fans tomorrow, or there's an extra 5, it still gives us a reason to keep existing.
The likelihood of me making it to Australia is so much less than the likelihood of you guys catching on enough to make it to America. So, fingers crossed and hoping for that end of it.
The beauty of it is an album doesn't need a passport. You can access it right now. And you've been extremely fortunate that you didn't have to wait for the Game of Thrones teaser for 2-3 years between series. You got the whole plethora of albums to listen to now, and you can feel the youthfulness and the viciousness in it while we are all crusting and dying in our sarcophaguses behind in the studio. So we're reaching that Lamb of God, Slipknot, Bad Back, sore shoulders version of our career.
Double whammy me there. An album doesn't need a passport is a fucking lovely sentence. And reaching the sore shoulders era. Great. So looking back through things on my end, there's no shortage of critical love, especially for these last 2 albums. It's vestigial, right? Vestigial.
So if you look up on the dictionary terminology of that, it means to cast aside something that's no longer needed. So in your body, in biology, that could be your appendix. We don't have a tail anymore, but we do still have a tailbone. It's more to do with natural history if you're just looking at a straight example, but it is applied to things that we do no longer need that persist. So our world leaders, our two-faced politicians, perhaps a bad relationship. This is a vestigial part of life that we would like to be able to cast off.
Okay. That's, I to be completely honest, until I was making my notes for this show, I thought it was vestigial. And then I realized just an hour ago that no, that's not the word. So I haven't had the chance to do that kind of fucking homework, and I'm glad that you gave us the proper education there.
Yeah, well, good.
I agree. So talking about the Gleaners, since it's the most recent album, is there a particular theme or overarching message there?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the practice of gleaning, and the ones that do it, the gleaners, is from medieval times where lords and kings or anyone of nobility that have access to their peasants and their slaves would do a harvest. So they'd have a good season. They had everyone toiling away in the field, and it's time to get your money back. So they remove all the great bits of the crop, and then only the scraps, only the little bits of dirt and dust are left. And as a fake mercy, the Lord would allow people to glean the field to sort of survive off the scraps. So I thought that's a very strong image of how the 1% is able to take the best and leaves us the dregs. And it's up to us to have to pull through the shit to be able to survive. And that can be held not just for monetary things and physical things of agriculture and what we do, but also in your own relationships and with the media, with ourselves, with our family, to find the little nuggets of truth along the way. So that is what gleaning is, and that is the main theme of the Gleaners.
Is there, I think if I remember right, there's a bit of a story to Vestigial. Is there a story in the Gleaners, or is it just that kind of theme kind of pervading throughout?
There is always core characters that I populate in the worlds of each album, and they have a ability to arc from one to the other. So if you listen to Vestigial and you listen to the Gleaners and you listen to the Tongueless in chronological order, you will pick up that it is to be consumed as one work. So in art, because I did painting and stuff at uni, especially to do with religion and that sort of European history, you are given a display called a triptych. A triptych is 3 panels usually that you'd see in a cathedral, that it is just exploring different aspects of a key theme. So in most cases, it's going to be the Stations of the Cross or the Crucifixion, and you've got different elements that are shown. So by talking about the one subject, but painting in different colours, you get a broader, more potent version of the story. So there's always a theme of core characters that you're introduced to in each record, usually 3 or 4, and they are given their dues where I shine a bit more light on them. And they embody the themes of capitalism, colonialism, white fragility, our race towards extinction, and also the apathy that we often have towards our minorities and the natural world. So I write Australian records with a global tongue.
Okay. Australian records with a global tongue certainly isn't something that I was prepared to try to digest, but I'm going to go ahead and try to do that on the fly here. How does the writing process work for you guys? If your lyrical process is that involved that it's kind of worked itself through these 3 albums, do you already have lyrical ideas for the next album? So
it's all complete. Album 5 is complete with my lyrics.
Fuck yeah.
So that's a lot of deep diving and research that goes into it. I take a lot of pride, and I'm obsessed with consuming words. I love language. But Carl is the mastermind of the musical part of it and always has been. So he will send me demos very well in advance, and we will dissect them together. And I also am in constant communication and conversation with the rest of the band about the lyrical themes and where we're heading. So it's super organized, and we have to be because we all have our own lives and we're quite busy individuals. So we don't waste time in the studio that way. We all do our homework, and when we are able to send it off to each other. And we're close enough within a relationship of the band members that it's not going to hurt our feelings if we do have some harsh criticism to fire back at each other. But generally, I can trust them after being with them for almost 15 years.
Yeah.
That you've got the faith in what it's going to be.
So are you the only one that is this far into the 5th album, or has the other band members started writing as well?
Yeah, most of the tracks are done. So
nice.
A large majority of the tracks are in demo stage, and it will just be us workshopping it at the pointy end of recording and pre-production. So we were lucky enough that when we recorded The Gleaners, we had some excess songs that were being trialled out. So we had time to record them in the same session. We just didn't have room for them on The Gleaners. So it is going to be following a real direct path from there.
How's that decision made? Is it based on just like a feel of the album, or is it based on your lyrics there, where the story's kind of run its mark here in this album? So these songs are going to be kind of left off.
I feel like it's a marriage between what Carl does musically and what I'm thinking in themes of lyrics. So that's going to give a human face to the music that he's making. He's quite cinematic. He's very orchestrated with the riffs he's coming up with. And he's very influenced by soundtracks of films and that kind of sonic background. So we are always talking to each other about where our head's at, what's been influenced, and then showing off things that we're experimenting with. So we were experimenting quite a bit more in The Gleaners compared to Vestigial. And that's a natural evolution as us as musicians to keep it interesting for ourselves. So I can guarantee there will be a more cranked up of experimentation in the next release as well.
I fucking love it, man. Because there's a, to be completely candid, I'm still, if you look back through our emails, it wasn't all that long ago that I was sending you an email saying, I just fucking found you guys. I want to fucking talk to you about this shit. It's awesome. I'm still digesting these last 2 albums and haven't really made it all that much further back. So I'm looking forward to getting back to that, but also just insanely excited at the idea of a new album coming sometime fucking soon. I don't want to get too far into that because I wanted to, it's already come up once there with the live thing. And I know that you guys have some shows coming up recently, or not recently, but so you guys have some shows coming up soon.
Yeah. So you're not listening to a time capsule, people. We do exist as a band. We are playing in several months from now. So when this is edited, you're still going to be able to attend if you're down the Southern Hemisphere. We are playing our own headlining shows with our good friends Burial Pit from Sydney. They are an extremely aggressive sludge band that's going to join us on the road. We're playing in Sydney, in Newcastle, Hobart for, well, that's It's been a dog's age since we played down there, so that's going to be fantastic. And we're also probably going to be playing in Queensland as well. So those dates are on lookandbehold.net, and the first show will be on October 24th at our favourite venue in Sydney, Crowbar. So I would love to see you all there. We have some very special songs we're going to be ripping out for that set.
I am jealous of each and every person that will be in attendance that fucking night. But for those of us that cannot make it, how would you describe a Lowe's show?
It is very cathartic, very energetic, and we are up there for the love of the music. So we just give ourselves completely to the song. And I don't hold anything back. I have a very rubberized face. And I pretty much conjure all the characters of Dune mixed with Jurassic Park to get it done. So we just love playing live, and it's at the core of why we're writing, why we're playing, and hopefully leaving you as a new fan or reaffirming your love of sludge music by the end of the set.
I very rubberized face. You know what? Speaking of your face, fuck it. Let's run with this for a second. We were talking kind of weirdly before all this started about how the picture I'm going to use to promote this thing is when you still had your hair. You've since shaved it. Any story behind that?
Look, like, as we said, albums don't have a passport. They don't have a use-by date. But unfortunately, as a male of our Homo sapiens species, you do have a shelf life on the follicles on the top of your head. So rather than be a sad comb-over individual at some point, I've got the West Wing happening on each side. So I end up looking more like Ralph Fiennes or Ralph Fiennes, however he wants to pronounce it. So I embrace my Voldemort skull. I'm not bald, but I'm definitely not able to like rock 6 feet under style dreadlocks either. So I live in far north Queensland. The average day up here is about 35 degrees, 100% humidity. And I do not need... Yeah, I do not need to have a climate attached to the top of my scalp.
Clearly not to make this about me, but also I'm going to say things about me for a second. In Columbus, Ohio, we're no strangers to humidity. Once upon a time, I had some thick, luscious, just beautiful, long-ass fucking hair. I don't care how that sounds. I'm running with it. And, I grew it out and shaved it off a bunch of times. And that feeling, it's almost like having an anvil released from your fucking skull.
Yeah, I do very physical long days. So to have the least amount of thought put into me leaving the house early in the morning, like 5 a.m., the better. And yes, if you are going to live in a sponge of humidity, it's best to be as close to your birthday suit as possible to get through the day.
Jumping back to your live stuff, have you ever you and your rubber face, ever experienced performance anxiety? I'm sorry, I'm trying not to laugh at the rubber face thing.
It's funny because you're performing now as a host and you're stumbling in your own program.
I do think
you're master of your own universe and you can't captain your ship.
The rubber face thing were we not trying to have a coherent conversation, I would be on the floor laughing my ass off about that. It's stuck in my head and I can't get rid of it.
Yeah, I've been called a lot of funny things. I've been called gestures, just because my hands are continuously Tim Burtoning when I'm on stage.
Tim Burtoning.
I've been called the Mick Jagger of sludge metal, which is pretty funny. And one dude in Romania once said, "Hey man, you're like the death metal Iggy Pop." But there's some cool phrases that have been thrown around. I don't get performance anxiety because I wrote those songs. I stand by them. I think things through about theatrics. It's acting as a profession is something that I've always been jealous of people being able to do. I do like stand-up comedy. I do love being able to see a theatrical production. Very Shakespearean, very biblical in their origins. I love all that sort of stuff. So I do inject that into our music when we're playing live. I prefer to go 10 out of 10 than hold back. So in Australia, we have a really horrible cultural slapback where it's called tall poppy syndrome. So if you grow too high above the other flowers, someone will chop your head off. And I don't think that's the right thing to do, because the whole phrase of saying someone is a try hard, I think that should be something that you wear as a badge of honor. You want to actually try hard. Why would you want to try less? Like, there's no money in sludge metal. If you're going to go out there and play for 45 minutes and people are paying to see you and they want to hear and experience that song, then go all out. Don't just hold back. I don't think there's any merit to doing that.
That's a hell of a way to come about that. Like, the whole try hard definitely has its negative connotation, but I'm going to go ahead and admit that I've fallen into just running with the negative connotation there, and I am going to do better about thinking about that based on this conversation. That's
yeah.
Why the fuck wouldn't you try hard?
Confidence is key in whatever you do. So if you've got a butt ugly hat that you like to wear, and someone goes, "Oh, what's up with that butt ugly hat?" You go, "Mate, it is killing it, and I love this hat." And then there's not really much you can do to bring someone down after they've said something like that.
Kind of without being able to say it so eloquently, that you're talking like how I go through my fucking day to day. No, this is stupid. That's why I love it. This is what I'm doing. Yeah. And also, I've had the butt ugly hat before. It was a fucking Les Claypool Frog Brigade hat from 2000. And I think my ex fucking threw that goddamn thing away, and she still won't admit it. But whatever. So what's the best introductory song for somebody trying to get into low?
I would say one of our most favourite songs to play live, with its energy and the way that it builds, would have to be the track Glutton, which is off Vestigial. So that's usually the album that people would cling to and be like, that's how I discovered low. So we're super proud of that work. That was a good chance for me when I joined to go from doing a little sample of a LP that I'd featured on to be able to now be given the reins of writing lyrics and a theme for an entire long play album. So Glutton is about our addiction to technology, the fact that we're all scrolling, we're all craning our necks, looking down rather than looking up and seeing what's on around us, and our need to have connection to technology and the death of intimacy between people that happens because of that. So if someone was going to blast it through the stereo right now, you want to have a taste test of low, I would say listen to Glutton off Vestigial. And if you wanted something a bit more recent to see where we've headed and how we've evolved from there, on the album The Gleaners, I would suggest either Kleptoparasite or The Gleaners, the title track, as a good way to see how our palates had matured.
I'll kind of piggyback on your thought there, in that I mentioned it in the lead up to our conversation. I came across you guys through the whole Spotify algorithm thing, listening to a band, Generation of Vipers, whom I fucking adore. And I was on like a 2 or 3 day run of them, and some setting changed without me intending it to change, and it jumped from Generation of Vipers to low, and it played Locust Christ. And initially, I was pissed that I wasn't hearing Generation of fucking Vipers anymore. And then by the time I got over to my phone to change it, I thought, I'll let this play. We're gonna go ahead. We're gonna go ahead and hear this one out.
So that track, Locust Christ, that is illustrating one of those core characters that I'm talking about.
Nice.
So, Vestigial, Locust Christ is one of the main antagonists in the story, I guess, or anti-climax heroes. And then in the Gleaners, you have the Gleaner, you have the Caucasian Vulture, you have the White Worm, etc. So that's the way that I introduce people to the mindset of that character. And it works as a totem. So just as other cultures have a totem and that embodies a whole bunch of lore and different things that go with it, that phrase of that character, he embodies sins as I see them and write them out.
I got to tell you, man, like going through these conversations, I like to write down random this and that were interesting through the conversation. And the not uncommon thing is to be halfway through a conversation and realize that I've only got like 2 or 3 things written down and just start finding things to write down. I'm out of fucking paper with you.
Oh, mate, that's the highest compliment you can get, because I can waffle on all day long about this sort of stuff. So it's a well that never dries up. And if it did one day, then I'd simply stop. Simply stop performing or writing lyrics. So luckily it hasn't happened yet. So it's been 15 years with Low. I would be quite happy to do another 15 more.
I God knows I'm fucking happy for the next 15. You've clearly run with the categorization of sludge here. So I'm going to skip that conversation altogether. What I want to know is, how do you describe your band to Grandma and Grandpa?
Oh.
And don't tell me they're dead. We're not trying to be sad here, God damn it.
Yeah, look, I only have one grandparent left, yep, and I don't think she would mind what I say to her at the moment. She's quite happy just pottering along, but I would describe to someone of that sort of age group that we are an aggressive band, but has a strong idea of anthem songwriting. So the biggest cultural clash that you see with that age group of people that didn't grow up on metal, and why they find a band like mine so jarring, is because they have been listening their whole lives to when a vocalist is completely alienated, usually from the music behind them. So you listen to, say, something like Elton John, which I absolutely love. His voice stands out here while there's a little bit of piano going over somewhere else. It's very, very audible, very easy to hear, but it's a human voice with then very pretty orchestration happening around it. In metal, a vocalist is often a percussion. It is often another instrument in itself that blends in and is often fighting with how loud and abrasive and jarring the music is. So it blends in perfectly on level. It has to cut through with drums and very loud guitars. Something like Elton John, Burt Bacharach, he stands alone floating in a cloud while things are complementing in the background. So it's kind of like saying to someone, try this meal, and then before they've finished chewing it, you're shoving more different cuisines into their mouth and telling them, pick out the first flavour. And old people just tend not to be able to do that if they haven't grown up with it in their ears. It's kind of like when you hear a language for the first time, it sounds very alien, very disjointing. But once you know the phrasing, once you understand the delivery, you're able to pick out all these intricate and elaborate conversations and themes straight away.
I got to tell you, man, as a podcast guy, I'm not having my best day. This is no secret between you and I or anything like that. Like, since our conversation has started, the tablet where my outline for questions has died. I'm trying to keep my phone on so I can see these. On a better day, I think you and I are going to have a fucking 3-hour podcast, because you are just an elaborate SOB. Like, that's a stupid throwaway question about how do you explain your music to Grandma and Grandpa that's just meant to generate a laugh and a fucking giddy answer. You just went super eloquent about it.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know what to do with that, is the problem here. I'm trying to keep my phone on. I'm out of beer. I'm trying to listen to this fucking eloquent conversation. God damn it. Anywho, we'll keep going one way or another. What are some influences for the band?
For Carl, there's, aside from your core group of post-metal, metalcore, heavy metal, that sort of genres, it's actually film soundtracks and those sort of ilk. So he'd be able to be expansive. He also listens to quite a lot of electronic music as well, so your Bjorks, your Portisheads, etc. But our core groups as bands would be Napalm Death, Converge, Lamb of God, Neurosis, Gallows, Ministry, 9 Inch Nails, Worm Rot, Pig Destroyer, Trap.
I was wondering if the 9 Inch Nails thing would come in with because that's not the first time you've mentioned soundtracks in this conversation either. I figured it was just kind of a matter of time before they came up one way or another. I just derailed your train for no good reason. Please continue.
No. Nine Inch Nails is a perfect example, but more focus would be on, say, your Trent Reznor identity and your Atticus Ross as well. So that ability to adapt to different emotions for whatever project they're doing. I would love to have that vitality injected in Low for every time we do a release. I'm very admire a lot those bands that are in their yesteryears of like Napalm Death, where despite their age, they are still being inventive and vibrant on each release. Their last 3 releases have actually been probably their strongest work to me. So I love being excited by bands that I've followed and not seeing them stagnate, because it can be really easy for a band to just do it paint by numbers and try and replicate a dying flame of when they were younger. And I think that there's more maturity, more dignity in inventing it for yourself. So I'll always be listening to those sort of bands and taking my hat off to them.
Sure. Now, I mentioned that I found you guys through the Spotify algorithm thing, and I'm willing to bet that you're coming back to a lot of these things through, Spotify has its evil fucking component, but also just the ease of being able to find somebody like Low in the way that I've come across you guys and everybody else. I'm sure you've had things like this too. What I'm getting around to here is, how much attention do you pay to streaming numbers?
Only as in jokes with my band members. As in, we all play nicey, but there's some bands that they get under your skin, and if you outperform them in some numbers, so be it. Then
I love it.
I'll just be quite happy that afternoon if I see that there's a few more digits on there. But generally, no, I don't care too much about it, because I still am able to play here in Australia or overseas, and there will be someone that I've never met before that comes up to me at the end of the show and thanks me for opening their eyes a bit wider because we're a new experience for them, or congratulating us on continuing it because they're already a fan. So that gives us fuel. That makes us very, very happy. And it had nothing to do with a couple of zeros on the end of the Spotify algorithm or subscribers. You
mentioned in passing, like, it's a unique name, but it also kind of has it's not necessarily the easiest thing to search. Where'd the name come from?
It was Carl's doing. It's to do with an Edgar Allan Poe poem. So Lo and Behold, or Look and Behold, as it would have been in Old English. So that is where that is from. So Lo as a shortness of Look and Behold.
I kind of figured, because that's everywhere that there's a chance for long form, that's what it says.
Well, in Australia, it's very, very hot. So it means that long conversations, long names become a throwaway. It's just too hot to continue. So if someone's called Robert, it's Robbo. If someone's called Nathan, it's Nath. That kind of stuff. So if you're going to be Lo and Behold, it's like, just crack me another beer, just go with Lo. So
perfect.
Yeah.
We've talked previously about some of your inspirations and the influences for the band. Is there anything, like, where do you draw inspiration from for these lyrics?
Well, you're a product of your own environment, aren't you? So my experiences as an individual, that's what I'm feeding off. But I deliberately seek out poems, books, films, art exhibitions that are rolling through town. I'm very, very interested in natural history because my day-to-day job is zookeeping.
Oh, we're going to get to that.
I'm head at reptiles, which is a kind of nice feather in the cap of that, because I've been obsessed with dinosaurs and keeping snakes and lizards since I was a very tiny child. So hence why I'm up in the tropics, because that's a living Jurassic Park for me. I can take my work home with me. So natural history, evolution, your Darwin theories, paleontology, and also on the other end of the scale, theology. So I love a good story. So even though I'm quite a strong atheist, the Bible holds so many references and key themes that you can contribute and translate into more poignant modern day sentences and phrasing. So everything to do with tyrants, to do with that grand play out of Shakespearean dramas, loss, anger, power, you're able to translate and put that into sludge metal. So sludge metal, typically for me, as a person that's been in it for a long time, I notice that lyrics can go along that sort of pothead journey, which I don't really like.
Nah.
There's this intangible gobbledygook that floats around to do with maybe a sonic sound of someone's voice doing a roar or a bellow, but not really much of a message. There's not much meat with the gravy. So I want to be able to have a poignant, strong anthem that backs up Carl's fantastic riffs. So, I think deep set in religion, deep set in our tyrants of the time or issues that are occurring in Australia, but I can translate it to things that are going on globally. So tracks on Gleaners say the deafening bleats of apathy. That's to do head on with how my government just ignored the tragic loss that had happened with our bushfires that had wiped out a lot of the ecology on the East Coast. And it continues to do so. It's just turn a blind eye and only put up your hand when it matters or you need to get another vote. But there's not really much conviction going on when people are expressing themselves about our natural environment.
Sure.
So, yeah, everything to do with nature, everything to do with society problems and social commentary. And I really stay away from anything like blood and guts and death metal style trappings.
And again, that's the thing that I think on a better day, or should there ever be a day that you and I are just sitting around drinking a beer, I think we could have a really long and, I don't know, useful is the first word that comes to mind, but the problem is that we're just two guys and we can't actually be useful in this. We can have our opinions, we can try to
I beg to differ, Clint. I beg to differ.
I love the idea. Please convince me otherwise.
Yeah. Same with my job at the zoo. If I go to the zoo and I'm talking to a crowd and I'm educating them about reptiles and conservation and being able to shine some light on a very misunderstood and possibly fear-invoking animal, and they leave with a more positive or at least away from the neutral, then I've done my job.
Sure. Yeah.
Same with the music. People hate it or love it. I'd rather them leave with some impact than just be completely apathetic towards it.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's believe it or not, you've said something else that's really thoughtful and useful, as opposed to me saying, or sure.
Yeah.
We're going to, I definitely want to, kind of pen in the job thing, because I'm certainly coming back to that in a couple different manners. But you guys just finished up a tour with Conjurer.
Yeah. Or as I like to say, conjure. The joke is that they are the furthest away from being French as possible.
Sure. They're
very proudly staunch British men. So, yeah, calling them conjure is quite amusing to me.
They're a personal favorite of mine. Connor of the band was on the show years ago. Just a quick recap of the shows there. How'd all that go, besides them not being French?
It went good. They were fantastic. A lot of energy, very talented dudes. Quite humble. Very well, because unfortunately, if you're in a room with us too long, it's going to be film quotes and lots of close talks and sweaty handshakes pretty quickly. So it was very successful. They ate them up in Melbourne and Sydney, so I'm glad that those shows were the standouts. That's our hometown in Sydney, and they are kind of from the other side of our coin. They are not technically purist sludge, etc., but neither are we, so I think it really went hand in hand with the whole tour.
Yeah, no, I think you guys would be an absolutely fucking amazing bill, and I'm no small amount of fucking jealous of the people who got to enjoy that. Because of some of the things that have been said and the line somewhere in there, what's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie? The one that I could watch every day of the year and I always go, oh my God, and there's something new in the background, is Christopher Nolan's The Prestige.
Oh. Yeah.
Absolutely love that film.
Jackman and Bale. That is a good fucking movie.
Yeah, huge Jackman, as we call him around here.
Huge Jackman, sure.
But Yeah, I love The Prestige. I think that's fantastic. I'm a big sucker for the movie 300. It's just a lovely...
fucking too.
It's got huge, big, grandeur monologues, excellent one-liners, and just the right visual cheeseburger for you to sink your face into. So graphic novels are really cool as an aesthetic, but they often fall a bit short. They're nowhere near as raunchy or as aggressive as they are in real life when they go to a cinematic version. So to see 300, I think frame for frame, you don't need any more improvement than that.
300 is to graphic novels what Fight Club is to novels. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that's the only translation that works perfectly, and that as a graphic novel to a movie works fucking perfectly in the way that it was done.
And then the Kurt Russell era, The Thing.
Okay, sure.
Yep, horror film, the Thing, and also Arnie in his heyday, Predator, the original Predator.
I've got a piece of art like directly behind the screen here that is just Predator's face. A guy that was on the show earlier this year, Steve Shanks, Chanks. Listen to the episode if you haven't. He does a bunch of that's not necessarily for you so much as for everybody else, but sure, you should listen to it too. He does a bunch of like weird little monster head things. I don't think I've got it. Oh yeah, you can't see it. It's a little zombie holding a stripper. Whatever. Predator's right there. Anyway, back to.
I got to big up Tropic Thunder, mate. Oh my god, Tropic Thunder. I could watch that almost every day of the year as well, and still find that very, very funny.
It's certainly got a fucking lot to it, and Tom Cruise's character in it is endlessly fucking amusing. Endlessly amusing, man. That guy with the what was it you said earlier? The West Wing hair. So good, so good. So back to the jobs thing here. Before we have fun with your job, which I cannot fucking wait to hear about, how do you guys delegate random band jobs?
We all just sort of fell into it as it was a necessity. So we didn't have the budget to be able to pay outside people to come in and tamper with what we are looking after. So it's all in-house pretty much. So very, very lucky that we have talented people in their own right. So our guitarist, not only does he write all the riffs and handle that, but he's handled every single release on its aesthetics and artwork since the beginning. So he's designed all the vinyl. He designs quite a bit of the merch. I myself am able to contribute because I talk to you. I have to be the one that talks most. And I also design a lot of the merch as well, and the flyers for posters, etc. And then we have the two Adrians. So we have two Adrians in the band. The drummer, Adrian Griffin, he is a web designer. He's very, very talented when it comes to technology. He does a lot of GoPro filming as well when we need it. And then we also have Adrian Shapiro, our bass player, who owns his own production company, and he's a director and a producer. So he's been at the helm for a lot of our video clips, at least the live action ones. And Carl, over the years, has been very good at adapting to animation. So that now becomes part of our graphics for both our live shows and also when we're thinking about film clips. So everybody is able to put in the hard work. We book all our own gigs most of the time. We conduct ourselves in a way that it's going to ease the way to make it more fun when we do play live, and it's not just business. As also, we love it. We love being in charge of what we produce. So we have complete control as artists about what we do.
Nice. Yeah, it's obviously a benefit when you've got a handful of talented people who can fill in all these random bric-a-brac fucking roles and do them successfully. And you mentioned something about the videos there, and I kind of meant to follow up on that earlier when you mentioned it. They are very striking and very, you know what? There's not a better word than striking. Let's talk about your videos for a minute. How do those processes work?
We usually have a conversation with Adrian where he has thought up an idea that would marry itself to the song. We pick the strongest or the most sort of experimental tracks of each release that's going to work, not just as a song, but as a visual with the film clip. We go through his production company, and then we're able to do it ourselves. But it's all about saving time and using the resources that we have. So much of the sets we make in ourselves, the actors is usually either a band member or someone we know quite well. And the concepts, you work with what you got. So you'll notice that most of the film clips that we have center around the human body as a form and manipulating that to be unhuman. So everybody has a body, and the way that different cultures or different individuals feel about the physical form and how that can be unsettling when you mutate it or destroy it or amplify it, that's the lasting, striking value of the clip. So whether that's me being dipped in 800 litres of milk lard goo, or whether that's perhaps our guitarist sprouting an extra head or a pair of breasts out of his body, all these sort of money shots of the film clips, that's there deliberately to make you feel unnerved, uneasy, and challenged, which is exactly what the soundscape of the track is doing to your ears. Now you're just getting it surround sound as well.
Right. So going from that into the thing that has kind of been alluded to a couple times here. Tell us about your day job.
Right. So when I'm not screaming my head off on stage, I have a day job, and that is I look after all the reptiles, insects and amphibians and some birds and mammal species at a far North Queensland zoo. So I'm head of reptiles there, and I'm a zookeeper by trade. So I do a lot of talks with the public. I help breed and look after a lot of our reptiles that live in the zoo. And also I'm called sometimes to go to people's houses and remove native reptiles rather than them be hurt or killed by them. I will remove them safely and put them back in the wild. So on my days off, I'd either be writing lyrics for music, or I'm out in the middle of nowhere in remote places looking and photographing reptiles and amphibians.
Now, I saw this was going to completely elude me, and then the band shared you being the guy directing the show. They're talking about, I'm going to get it wrong, some kind of gator. So is the way I'm going to leave
alligators.
it. Alligators.
Alligators are a USA thing. We don't have any exotic reptiles at the zoo I'm working at currently. I have worked with gators in the past. It would have been our very large boy saltwater crocodiles or estuarine crocs.
Crocodiles.
So they're absolutely huge. The two that we have on display at the moment that you would have seen during that clip, they are 4.1 metres and 4.3 metres, probably around the 490 kilo mark each. And they're estimated to be about 65 to 75 years old. So they're old gentlemen with very big chompers on them, and they're quite impressive to look at.
I am going to go ahead and concur. That was fucking impressive. Like, I've got I'm not going to get up on my soapbox here. I've got a weird thing with social media videos where I won't sit there and watch them. Yeah, I fucking watched that one.
I'm glad. That's a great compliment. So I want to make it. I don't go too heavy-handed with the facts. You always give people the ability to be educated, but you want to be lasting and entertaining as well while you're doing it. So You can learn and have a bit of fun along the way. Otherwise, it sounds like a university lecture, and you don't want people falling asleep on you.
No. I have no problems falling asleep. I don't need to go to the metal world or reptile world for help there. Token American asking about Australia question.
Yep.
Are the insects and wildlife really as crazy as the memes and pictures make them out to be?
Well, we do, like where I am, I'm in the last fragment of wet tropics. So wet, high humidity rainforest left in Australia. So we're quite a dry country all over. Most people would think of the outback when they visualise Australia as a landscape.
Sure, yeah.
And that's the majority of the interior. We do have coastal forests of gum trees up the east coast where most people live. But where I am, very remote, and our ecosystem resembles more of Indonesia, Southeast Asia, Papua New Guinea, that sort of area, because that's where it used to be attached to before the drying out of the continent. So the big animals that we have, we're not like the US. We do not have cougars. We do not have bears. We don't have wolves. We separated millions of years before any of that. So when they were handing out the job application of top predator, there was no mammals or birds around to fill those gaps. Instead, it's cold-blooded animals. So where I live, saltwater crocodiles, very, very large pythons, and very, very large monitor lizards. They are the things on the land, in the trees, and in the water that are running the show, and they're all cold-blooded. So all those animals can hurt a person, but they're not going to be able to if you just know the habits of the animal. So you're very, very safe from a saltwater crocodile up here because it's a giant cucumber of a body, very short sausage legs. It relies on water to be able to be agile because it's so damn heavy. Once it gets up on land, it's not going to be able to chase you down like a wolf or a cougar, okay? But if you're in the water, game's up. So stay away from the water's edge. When you see those warning signs, you're going to be quite safe. And I'm sure the same applies for very large bull gators in the southern states. You don't mess around with them. Just because they're sitting there nice and quiet on a warm day sunbaking does not make them puppy dogs. It does not make them a good thing to go and try and get a selfie for Instagram. So we don't do ego stroking up here. There's no point in doing that. You're going to get really, really hurt by our native animals.
Sure.
But when you're talking about our insects and our spiders, sure, yeah, we do have quite a large array of little ectotherms that are quite big, like some spiders as big as your hand. We've got rhino beetles that are about the size of a computer mouse. We have the world's largest and heaviest cockroach up here that weighs about the same as a mobile phone, which is quite impressive for a bug.
That's fucking crazy impressive.
It's beautiful. I could spend all day long looking at things under a log and find things to interest me. So very nerdy stuff, but if you're not a nerd for something, you're going to be very, very boring on a trivia team at the pub. So everybody needs their own little passion. I'm just lucky that I have multiple passions. I've got music, I've got art, I've got bugs, I've got films, I've got reptiles, etc. If you come to Australia, it's almost like you get a brochure handed to you at the airport that everything wants to kill you, sting you, or eat you. And that's a really gross exaggeration. Like you will run into people in Melbourne or Sydney that will be 80 years old and they've never even seen a wild snake. So it's more to do with where you live, what you're looking for, and are you following the rules?
Sure.
Like you look at, say, an American snake, you've got your rattlesnakes that are quite famous and infamous. Their fangs on them, they're like mini hypodermic needles. They're quite big. So all pit vipers have very large fangs. So they could be a couple of centimetres in length compared to, say, an inland taipan or a brown snake in Australia, way, way, way more higher in potency of toxicity of their venom. Going to wipe out a person pretty badly if they bite you. But their fangs, pathetic. They're about 3 mils long. So if you're wearing footwear and baggy pants and you're going for a hike in Australia in the bush, how the hell is a 3 millimetre fang going to get through and make you? Yeah. But if you're drunk and you've got your Bud Light hat on, you're wearing no shoes, and you're wearing your cargos, and you've just been hanging around in the middle of the day by a river where frogs and mice live, is that common sense? Are you going to get through this holiday all right? I don't think so.
Well, I mean, that's one way to go out.
Yeah, as with everything, it's just like read the warning labels of life and you will survive.
Also, as with everything, that was a very thorough answer and fucking worthwhile. You make my stupid questions useful. I love it. I'm going to have you
there's
on.
No such stupid question, but there's definitely a crappy answer.
There are definitely stupid questions, and here at Epitome of Stupidity, we ask the stupid question. That's our unknown motto. Anyways, there are stupid answers, though, and you are not having any of those. I know of at least one other band that you're in, being Hadal Ma. Am I saying that right?
Yeah. So my drummer makes a joke of calling that band. He goes, Hadal Ma. So it is Hadal Ma.
Hadal Ma. Okay.
Hadal Ma. So Ma is mouth, like an open mouth or a large jaw, and Hadal is to do with Hades. So the Hadal Zone, which is two things: the underworld in Greek mythology. But also the Hadal Zone is the deepest, darkest, most explored trench at the bottom of the world's oceans. So imagine a big open mouth in the deep, dark abyss of the ocean swallowing things up. So that is where the name comes from.
That's kind of how I imagine it any damn way.
Yeah.
So with that, I don't know, I've got conflicting reports on my research that I've done on the internet here as to whether or not there are other projects. Basically, is there anything you want to talk about with that or anything else?
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Well, Hadal Moore's been running almost as long as Low. It is a Melbourne-based progressive death metal band. So we do a lot of tech, a lot of aggression, a lot of vibration. For fans of Nile, Full of Hell, Cattle Decapitation, that sort of ilk. Ben and Nick have been doing the helm of the writing of that for many, many years. And also we're blessed that Nick is quite a good artist in himself. So if you love your H.R. Geiger, your Dante's Inferno type artworks, that is what we have as our aesthetic. So it's a bit more freedom with the lyrics because it is way more disjointed and dissonant in the music part of it for Hadal Moore. So I do have a different character that I put on for when I'm doing those releases, but it's still very full on live. And if you like windmilling, if you like headbanging, it's a good band to listen to. If I don't say so myself, bing bing. And I'm in another project called Mesha, which is made up of one of the members of Sleep Makes Waves, which is an Australian instrumental post-metal band. And their drummer is also a member of We Lost the Sea, which is Carl from Low's large instrumental band that tours around.
Do these characters, do they have names?
I only myself, as when I'm on stage, I am me. I do embody those totem characters that I'm talking about when I'll be the preacher at the pulpit. I'll be the peasant groveling. I will be the tyrant, that sort of mouthpiece when I'm embodying the lyrics of that song to sell it. But the only sort of alter ego I have that has a name is something completely different outside of music, is when I've finally finished the show and I get to take off the mask of professionalism, because I don't drink before I play. I don't drink while I'm playing. I'm quite sober the entire time. But at the end of the night, it does come time to celebrate. And once I take off those reins, then I become Kunterbunt. And Kunterbunt is a Polish drunk clown. And so
I'm the American version of Kunterbunt.
Yeah, so that got named on one of our European tours because I would be sober all day. The band would be able to have a few beers before they went on. And at the end of the night, they're winding down. But then I wind
just
up.
kick
So
it
we
up,
get back on the bus. And they'd be like, ooh, it's good time. And they're like, oh, no. And it's just like, no, it's my turn now.
God damn it, man. How do I spell Kunterbunt?
Oh, yeah, you might get in a bit of trouble for the first part. In an Australian accent, it might sound like something different.
Untoward.
Yeah, untoward.
Yeah. Well done.
I would spell it Kuntbunt.
So there's no A's in there anywhere, huh?
Oh, yeah, there is an A. Sorry, yeah.
So Kunta?
Yeah.
All right.
And then Bunt.
I fucking love it, man. This has been insanely fun. Like, there are questions in here where I was planning to try to manufacture some clearly unnecessary. I am fucking insanely jealous of people that get to see your bands fucking live. We're going to go ahead and round this out because we're coming up on it. We are at an hour. And we'll round this out and start to get into the home stretch here. We'll do the quote unquote rapid fire type thing. To which, please go long if you feel it, because I've completely enjoyed everything you fucking said so far. I know the answer to this one because you've already said it, and I think I'm just going to stop asking this. I don't think tea is the thing that people think it is. I talk to a lot of bands from the other side of the planet, and almost universally the answer to this is coffee. So, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Of course. It's... what's something you could eat for a week straight?
Caribbean food.
Okay. This is another one that I like to preface because I always feel like it's going to come off badly, but 9 times out of 10 people have really strong opinions. Beatles or the Stones?
Ooh, the Beatles.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you had to compare your music to an animal, what would the animal be?
Our music, I would say a vulture or a hyena.
Good. I usually don't like to go back to back with the animal questions here, but because it's you and the things we've talked about previously, I'm going to. If you could ask one animal, one question, what's the animal? What's the question?
Oh, I would love to ask a sperm whale a question. They're actually my favorite animal. Even though I love reptiles so much and that's my job, I find them so mystical and intelligent and otherworldly because they're an aquatic T-Rex. They live out in a world that we couldn't even fathom or survive. They deal with so many hardships and they live so long and they have intimate relationships with family members and they communicate so vividly to each other. I'd love to just ask them, what is it like diving down into that blackness and what do you think of the world around you? That would be a question I'd love to ask them.
And again, you've spun my stupidity into something worthwhile. I'm going to have you on every show.
Thanks, mate.
Candy corn, yay or nay?
Look, I've tried it once. It was just like eating a polished piece of plastic, really.
I've tried it once. Beer or liquor?
Beer, always beer. I used to work in a craft brew pub. I quite like the yeast. I'm all about cracking a nice beer, especially if I've got something to celebrate.
Sure. This is quickly becoming my favorite question for this. I'm going to assume I'm not going to have to explain this one to you, but I've had to explain it previously. A mundane superpower. What would your mundane superpower be?
A mundane superpower would be it'd be like you agree with everything. So you're able to turn it around that you're on the same page as everyone else.
Okay. All right.
They'd be called like woke man.
I gotta find fucking room to write woke man.
Yeah. So you don't solve anything. You just coast through on the plateau of mediocrity.
Go-to karaoke song.
It is Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer, which is also my favorite song of all time.
That song is so great.
Yeah, it's also where we introduced the world to Aardman Animation. So they were the ones that created Wallace and Gromit.
Right. Yeah, no, that's an underrated part of that thing, and I should do better in remembering it. Now, this is a thing that I end up having to explain to people on the other side of the planet. This is how I'm going to keep phrasing this. We'll see how it works here. Breakfast sausage, links or patties?
Links,
okay.
I reckon.
All right.
Like a bratwursty vibe, yep, or hot links.
Sure.
If you're doing a biscuit sort of style of food, yep.
No explaining here. Believe it or not, Sam's on it. Okay, so you've made it through the gauntlet of my quasi trying to be intelligent questions and all the stupidity that has run through here. And again, I would talk to you every fucking week if I had the chance. You are fucking awesome, Sam. Let alone the music of fucking Low. It's been great. But I'm going to send you to an island by yourself for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. You get to take one album with you. What's the album?
I really, really enjoy The Final Cut by Pink Floyd.
Really?
Yes.
You
had inspiration on the way that I see the world and how you would illustrate that in your vocal deliveries. Yeah.
You're a damn onion. You've got layers.
We also love Shrek as a band, and I'm so psyched for Shrek 5. That's not me being sarcastic. I can't wait to see it. I'm going to go see it in the movies for sure.
Shrek 5! Dude, this has been a ton of fun. All the fucking thanks to Sam for getting up early to talk with me. If you're anywhere near where they're playing anytime soon after this conversation, I can't possibly imagine why you would miss it. Please report back to me after you have seen them as well. Be sure to follow Low, ! Look and behold is what I think it usually is, right?
Lookandbehold.net, and you'll be able to get all our links to our video clips that we've been wagging on about, as well as dates to when we're playing, merch, etc. And you can also find us easily on Spotify if you type in our album titles. So you could look up Vestigial, Low. You could also look up Low, The Gleaners, or even Low, The Tongueless, and you're going to find us quite quickly that way.
And to try to simplify things, all of these links will be in the show description. Speaking of the show, please hit subscribe to wherever it is that you're listening to it from, and you'll get this delightful stupidity delivered to you free of charge every time there's a new one. Thanks as always to the Brimming Horn dudes for sponsoring us, as well as Blockout Bash for partnering with us. Links for all of them in the podcast description as well. At this point, I've got one last question for you, Sam. While we were setting this thing up through the 27 emails that we've gone through so far, asking you what song you wanted to use for intro, outro, you went with Cannibal Culture. I'm going to ask you why, and then introduce it for us so that we can get out with it.
Okay, so as two white dudes that are into metal, that we live in the Western world, we have quite an unfair advantage and privilege that we might not always be aware of. Plus, we do borrow a lot from other cultures. So it's nice to, and respectful, to acknowledge your past, what that does to shape you, but also understand that it's not the same experience for everybody else. So when we rob a minority of its chance to talk at a podium, and we're an oxygen thief in that way, then we diminish their voice. We make it silent in a room where we're all agreeing on the same thing. So I think it's best to step back, allow people to be able to say their piece and give it the weight it deserves. So Australia is a very good example of colonialism and of how we have silenced a lot of our First Nations people along the way. And that shouldn't be happening. So just like a cannibal that eats its own, we shouldn't be doing that. We should be able to allow everyone to coexist and acknowledge the damage that has been done. So that is what cannibal culture is about, and the way that capitalism has made us cannibals of not just ourselves, but our resources as well.
And with that, here's Cannibal Culture.
Mm-hmm.